Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Kathy. So a subscriber of mine, I will tag her. It's the Thrifty Citizen. She's in Slovenia. She asked me probably a couple months ago to talk more about, when I was reading, I think it was the part in the book of Psalms that talks about Joseph and what happens to him. That's Psalm 105. And so she had made a comment about, can you talk more about the life of Joseph and what happened to him? And so I did my own little research, and I'm not a theologian or Bible scholar or anything. So there might be bits missing, or I might just skim over some areas because it's a very long story. And it starts in Genesis 37 and goes for at least a few chapters. So you can read that if you want and to really see exactly what happens. It's really amazing just to see God working behind the scenes of everything that's happening and not letting anything, bring about his demise, which could have happened many times. But he had huge plans for him. And so we will just go through kind of talking about his upbringing and how things were brought about. And so sorry, the cat's gonna start making noise over there. But okay, so people might remember that it started with Abraham. He had Isaac when he was, I think, around 100. And then Isaac had Jacob, who was renamed Israel. And then Jacob had 12 sons, one of them being Joseph. And Joseph was his favorite. And it was pretty clear the brothers were very jealous of that. And he had a special gift of deciphering dreams. And he could talk about and analyze them, if his dad or someone had a dream, or he would have his own dreams and he would talk about, what they meant and what God was telling him they meant. And so his brothers were very jealous. Not only was he the favorite son, but also had a special gift. So they decided to take him, and while they were out going somewhere, and they threw him in a pit, and they were just going to leave him. And so that was their plan. They didn't really care that, he would die there. And his father gave him a coat of many colors, this really special coat that he would wear. So they took his coat before they threw him in the pit, and they smeared some kind of animal's blood on it, and they were going to tell their father that, oh yeah, he was killed by a wild animal. Gosh, it was horrible, but that's what happened. But as he was in the pit and the brothers were, deciding all the plans and everything. Can you see the cat there? So they saw a group traveling, and this group, I'd have to go back and read, but probably slave traders. I want to say it said a group of Ishmaelites, but I'm not positive. So they decided to sell him into slavery and get some money. And again, they didn't care what happened to him while he was a slave, if he died, whatever. I mean, they were going to just leave him to die anyways. So they sell him into slavery. They take his coat back with some kind of animal blood on it, tell their father. Their father is absolutely distraught and can't even function for a long time, and because he believed them. So Joseph was taken to Egypt by this group that bought him, and he was sold to Potiphar, who was the captain of Pharaoh's guard. So while he was there in Potiphar's house, being a slave, Potiphar's wife tried many times to seduce him. So, and he kept saying, no, no. And one time, the last time she really was throwing herself at him, he went running out of her room or wherever they were, and he left a garment behind, maybe a coat or scarf or something like that. And so she came up with this big story that, he tried to attack her and force himself on her. And she fought him off, but during all this, he left his garment behind. And so they believed him, or believed her. And so he was thrown into Pharaoh's jail. So while he was there, Joseph interprets the dreams of some of the prisoners in there and also of Pharaoh. So the huge dream was, which none of the magi, magicians, all of them, they could not, who would read the stars and all that, they couldn't decipher Pharaoh's dream, but Joseph deciphered it, and he tells about the 7 years of famine that are coming. And so he's able to store up grain during that time. So he was taken out of jail, placed in a position, which again, I'd have to go back. And this is such a long story. I mean, I'm trying to keep this not extremely long, but this could definitely be 30, 40 minutes or even 50 minutes if you just go through everything and read all the Bible verses. And then when you go to Psalm 105 and read that, the telling of it, the retelling, it's really detailed. So I'm just going through kind of quickly, pointing out, Joseph could have died in the pit, but he was taken out of that. And, God saved him from that. He could have died when he was sold into slavery the first time. God saved him from that. Something bad could have happened when he was sold to Pharaoh's group, Potiphar's section. Something could have happened. He could have been killed when Potiphar's wife accused him. And so many things could have happened to end his life and what was meant to be, but God has other plans, and he saved him all these times. So yes, he analyzes the dream about the 7 years of famine that are coming. So he gets put into a position to store grain. And so during the famine, I think it was the second year of the famine in the land, Joseph's brothers are sent to Pharaoh to get food. And they don't know that it's Joseph in charge of the grain and, doling out to the people and selling it, whatever ends up happening. So he keeps his identity hidden. He realizes, these are his brothers. All of them except the youngest, Benjamin, came because Benjamin stayed with the dad, Jacob, because Jacob couldn't handle if something happened to him on this journey to go to Egypt and to get some grain. So all the 10 brothers came, and Joseph knew who they were. They didn't know who he was. So they come in, and let's see. Joseph accuses them of being spies. And they were, no, we're not. Oh my gosh, here's our story. Our father's at home in the other land with our youngest brother and all this stuff. And he was just seeing, how they would react, what they'd say. Maybe if he could catch them in a lie or something like that. So at one of the times, he invites all of them to dinner, and he plants a silver cup in one of their bags and accuses them of theft. So one of the brothers offers to stay, and some other things happen. He tells them, go back to your place, get Benjamin, the youngest. And so let's see. Yeah, and he wants the youngest one to stay because they were caught stealing something. So one of them offers to stay in place of Benjamin, the youngest. So this shows Joseph that the character of this person, what his brother, has changed. And so with all of this happening, Joseph reveals himself to his brothers. His brothers feel really bad that they were going to leave him for dead. And then they sold him into slavery, not caring what happened to him. But Joseph reassures them that it's all God's plan for him to be saved, to end up in Egypt, to be put in charge of the grain at Pharaoh's land, and to be able to save his brothers and all of their families and his father and all of his household, which was huge. I guess they had a huge household with all the people. And so, yeah, he was telling them, no, this is God's plan. It was meant to be what you meant for evil, God turned around and made good. And he worked it to have his plans fulfilled, and for Joseph to be where he needed to be to save all of his family and his lineage. And because his dad, Jacob, was renamed Israel and was told by God that, your descendants will be as many as the number of the stars or the sands of the sea. And yeah, so something, had to have happened to keep that promise, that covenant from God. So going through all that whole story is just wild. And you can really see, bad things are happening over and over and over. And he could have died many times or been killed or whatever it was. But God saved him, and each time kept elevating him to a different levels to where he was in charge of the grain and the food for the land. So during a famine, so he told his brothers to go back and get his father, all of his father's household, and everyone, bring them back to Egypt where they could live, because there was still going to be 5 more years of famine. So he wanted to provide for them, and that was all God's plan anyways. So that's pretty amazing. And he sent a whole bunch of, I think, 20 donkeys and a whole bunch of provisions with the 10 brothers to go back to make their journey and to get everyone else and bring them back to Egypt. So yeah, God's plan trumps everything. I'll just say that. So going back to, if you want to read it, Psalm 105, I'll try to link that because I read through the whole book of Psalms, and each chapter, maybe 2 chapters at once if they were short. But I will link that in the description box if you want to hear that. That's pretty neat, just listening to, as I was reading it, it kind of recaps the story of, Jacob and Joseph and the brothers and going to Egypt. And it was all a blessing in disguise, and what Satan, evil, meant for bad, God was making for good each step of the way. So anyways, that's just my little summary-ish of Joseph. And yeah, like I said, Genesis 37 is where the story starts at. Goes for at least a few chapters. I was going to read it, but it's pretty long. So I encourage anyone to read that, and also Psalm 105 if you're interested. So yeah, if you're going through something where, just roadblock after roadblock, or just bad things are happening, God is taking you on a path to get you to where he wants you to be. And sometimes you have to go through a lot of valleys. There might be some peaks where things are great, but there might be some more valleys where maybe, unfortunately, bad things, not great things are happening. But God will eventually get you to where he wants you to be, where you will be blessed and the good things will be happening. So anyways, I hope that might encourage someone, and let me know down below if you liked the reading of, or I should say the summarizing of the story of Joseph. Let me know if you want me to do a deep dive or a semi-middle dive of anything, any story. I really like doing them. I like researching and making notes because I can learn more about it, the different stories, and just what the Bible says. So thank you to the thrifty citizen who asked me to talk about this. I really appreciate that. And yeah, definitely check her out, her channel. She's in Slovenia. She does all kinds of different topics. And yeah, all right. Well, I will see everyone in the next video. All right. God bless.